The distress beacon from Outpost Kepler-7 reached the Coalition fleet with an unusual tag: Non-Emergency Cultural Incident. Engineer Tessa Marlowe stood in the observation deck, watching the station grow larger through the viewport, and wondered what kind of chaos awaited her this time. Kepler-7 was a joint research facility, one of humanity's first collaborative efforts with the Vrenathi, a species of apex predators whose cubs were sent to neutral stations for socialization training. The Vrenathi were magnificent, 8 feet tall, covered in iridescent scales that shifted between deep purples and blacks, with eyes that could track a target across a kilometer. Their young, however, were considered dangerous enough that most species refused to host them. Humans, characteristically, had volunteered. Engineer Marlowe. The station commander's voice crackled through her comm, sounding exhausted. "Thank the stars you're here. We need an expert on human traditions." Tessa frowned. "I'm an electrical engineer, Commander. I fix power conduits, not cultural misunderstandings. Just get to Deck 12. You'll understand when you see it." Deck 12 had been transformed into something between a war zone and a festival. Strings of multicolored lights crisscrossed the corridor in elaborate patterns. Some blinking in sequence, others steady, many tangled into knots. Holographic snowflakes drifted through the air. Someone had constructed what appeared to be a fort made entirely of wrapped boxes near the mess hall entrance. And in the center of it all sat Heron. The Vrenathi cub was approximately the size of a full-grown human, his scales gleaming with the bronze undertones of youth. He had wrapped himself in at least 15 strands of lights which pulsed in rhythm with his purring, a deep, resonant sound that Tessa could feel in her chest. Around him, 3 other cubs had claimed their own territories, each decorated with increasingly elaborate light displays. "Oh no," Tessa whispered. "Who told them about Christmas?" A researcher nearby, a Quellan with drooping antennae, looked up miserably. "Dr. Hayes showed them a holiday documentary 3 weeks ago. We thought it would be educational." Tessa approached carefully, making sure Heron could see her. Vrenathi cubs had better manners than their reputation suggested, but surprising a predator was never wise. "Heron," she said softly, "those are a lot of lights." The cub's head swiveled toward her, eyes bright with pride. "Engineer Marlowe, I have created the superior display. My territory now reflects the human concept of holiday cheer most accurately. The other cubs will submit to my expertise." From across the corridor, another cub, this one draped in icicle lights, hissed a response in the Vrenathi language. Heron hissed back. "They're arguing about whose Christmas display is more authentic," the Quellan researcher translated. "It's been 3 days. They've tapped into 17 different power junctions. The station's electrical grid is experiencing brownouts because they keep trying to outdo each other." Tessa pinched the bridge of her nose. This was so profoundly human it hurt. Of course, humanity's first major cultural export to a species of predators would result in competitive holiday decorating. "Heron," Tessa said, sitting down cross-legged near the cub, close enough to show trust, far enough to respect his space. "Can I tell you something about human Christmas traditions?" The cub's attention focused on her entirely. Vrenathi cubs were excellent students, which was part of why humanity had agreed to host them. They absorbed information like sponges, though they interpreted it through their predatory worldview. "The lights are beautiful," Tessa continued, "but Christmas isn't really about having the best display. It's about sharing the season with others. Humans decorate their spaces, yes, but the point is to create warmth and joy together, not to establish dominance." Heron tilted his head. "But Dr. Hayes' documentary showed neighborhoods competing for best decorated house. There were prizes, glory." Tessa couldn't help but smile. "Okay, yes, some humans do that. But the real tradition, the heart of it, is about gathering, sharing food, exchanging gifts, making others feel welcome in your space." She gestured to the tangled lights around the corridor. "What if instead of each of you claiming territory with your displays, you all work together to decorate the entire deck? Make it a shared space that everyone can enjoy?" The other cubs had crept closer during her explanation, listening. One of them, smaller than Heron with scales that shimmered green, spoke in halting standard. "Cooperation display, like pack hunting but with lights?" "Exactly like that," Tessa said, warming to the idea. "You could plan it together, combine your lights, create something none of you could make alone. That's very human too, making something greater as a group." Heron's purring intensified, which Tessa had learned meant he was thinking deeply. This would require trust, allowing others into my territory without establishing dominance first. Yes, Tessa agreed. That's what makes it meaningful. The cubs exchanged glances, some communication passing between them that Tessa couldn't fully interpret. Then Heron stood, carefully unwrapping several strands of lights from his body. "We will attempt this human tradition," he announced. "Engineer Marlowe will advise on proper electrical load distribution, so we do not cause another brownout." Over the next 6 hours, Tessa found herself directing the strangest construction crew she'd ever worked with. The Vernathi cubs proved to be meticulous collaborators once they'd committed to the project. They planned their light placement with the same strategic thinking they'd apply to a hunt, coordinating colors and patterns with surprising artistic sense. Heron proved particularly adept at reaching high spaces, his natural climbing ability making him invaluable for hanging decorations from the ceiling. The green-scaled cub, whose name Tessa learned was Kyrix, had an eye for symmetry that resulted in beautifully balanced arrangements. When they finished, Deck 12 had been transformed. Lights spiraled along support beams and draped across doorways. Holographic snow continued to fall, now seeming intentional rather than chaotic. The cubs had even constructed a central gathering area with cushions arranged in a circle, a space for the pack, as they called it. "It's perfect," Tessa said honestly. "This is what Christmas looks like." Heron settled near her, his scales reflecting the multicolored lights. "I understand now why humans value this tradition. Creating beauty together is satisfying in ways I did not anticipate. It is not about dominance, it is about building something that benefits all." "That's exactly right," Tessa replied, feeling an unexpected swell of pride. The station commander's voice came through the comm. "Marlowe, whatever you did, the cubs have stopped trying to overload our power systems. The electrical readings are actually stable." "We reached an understanding," Tessa said, watching as other station personnel began to drift toward Deck 12, drawn by the lights and the unusually peaceful gathering of predator cubs. Heron observed the growing crowd with interest. "More pack members are arriving. Should we share our space with them?" "That," Tessa said, "would be very Christmas-like of you." The cub stood and made a gesture that Tessa recognized as the Vernathi welcome posture, lowered head, scales smoothed flat. Around him the other cubs did the same, and so Outpost Kepler 7 celebrated its first official Christmas, presided over by 4 predator cubs who had learned that humanity's strangest traditions often contained their deepest truths.